Okay, thank you very much. We are going to start with this session. The session will explore the topic we are talking about, which is attracting new farmers for agriculture with high-level speakers. So I want to welcome as well those who are watching online via YouTube, as this session is live streamed publicly via the OECD Trade and Agriculture YouTube channel. I have to tell you that we will have to have a little bit of flexibility because we are waiting for the Commissioner of Agriculture from the European Union. So in the moment that he arrives, we will stop, we will interrupt the session, and then we will continue, okay? Because he has something very important to introduce to us. I'm very happy to be here with these high-level speakers. So I'm going to ask you to share your reflections. 5 minutes, please. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon from the beginning because I've been told to be tough with you. So I will warn you when you have just 1 minute left. Of course, this is flexible as well. Okay, and we will start by Lozana Vasileva, Deputy Minister from the Ministry of Agriculture and Food from Bulgaria. Lozana, please tell us your reflections.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, for Bulgaria, the renewal of generation in agriculture is a strategic priority and an integral part of our efforts to build a sustainable, competitive, and socially inclusive agriculture sector. I would like to note that the strategy for generation renewal in agriculture of the European Commission presented last week sets a framework and clear key directions. We fully share its vision that young farmers should be at the center of the agricultural policy and be treated as a priority. In Bulgaria, the ratio between young farmer managers and farm managers aged 55 or older is above the EU average, 28% compared to 15% in the EU. However, attracting new farmers requires a complex and multifaceted approach. As part of this process of skills and tech development, competence centers are being developed across the country, included one located at the University of Food Technology in Plovdiv. They will be presented at the upcoming national event From Science to Innovation in November. In parallel, applications have opened for the I Choose Bulgaria initiative, which supports Bulgarian citizens who wish to return to live and work in the country and rural areas. Bulgaria was among of the first countries in Europe to adopt legislation on drone spraying in agriculture. In addition, an establishment of an AI factory is envisaged, a comprehensive hub that will serve as a one-stop shop integrated government, education, and private sector efforts to enable the responsible adaptation and innovation of artificial intelligence. Our task is to connect the challenges of agriculture with the tech solution developed as part of the initiative. Attracting new entrants to agriculture depends on two main factors: the development of skills and the adoption of new technologies. For us, it is crucial to avoid digital inequality, as the skills gaps are the main barrier, and to ensure equal access to new technology for all farmers. Bulgaria implements a range of policy and initiatives. Among them are the special measure support for young farmers, consultancy programs for the preparation of business plans, advisory packages for green and digital skills, and from last year, new measure for new farmers, as well as dual education initiatives. In Bulgaria, several digital innovation hubs operate. One of them is for agriculture and food, small and medium enterprises and farmers. Through the leader approach and National Rural Development Program, we support local initiatives and create employment. By 2027, the level of cooperation is planned to increase by 400%, with efforts focused on introducing flexible procedure and supporting operational group for innovation under the European Innovation Partnership. These efforts are expected to engage more than 100,000 people through training, advisory services, knowledge exchange, and participation in innovation collaborations. What is important is to connect rural areas with more developed regions through affordable infrastructure investments in transport, healthcare, and digital connectivity, making rural areas more attractive place to live and work. In conclusion, we are convinced that through the exchange of good practices and close cooperation with OECD, we can work more actively in attracting new entrants, especially from technology, to solve the main challenges we have for the future of food. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Susanna. Very interesting. I think you've talked about something which is very important, and it had not been here in the previous breakout discussions, and it is the need to adapt legislation to the new technologies, as well as training, development of skills, etc., and the need to help them with the business plans. It's just that economy approach that sometimes they don't have the knowledge, as no one has. So it is very interesting. Thank you so much. I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Tugomir Majak, Secretary of State from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries from Croatia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, especially farmers, it is my honor and privilege to participate on this forum for generational renewal. Thank you to OECD for invitation. We in Croatia also see that renewal, generational renewal and attracting young people to the agricultural sector is key topic because for the future is very important to attract young people because we have been facing the challenge of an aging rural population for years. In Croatia, also like in Bulgaria, we have percent of young farmers more than it is a percentage in on EU level, but definitely we are not satisfied with that, and it is insufficient for long-term sustainability and competitiveness. Therefore, generational renewal in agriculture is not just a demographic issue. It is a question for food security, definitely, but also for economic resilience and the future of our rural communities. In that context, we welcome the new strategy for generational renewal in agriculture that the European Commission has presented last week, aiming at attracting new young farmers who bring fresh energy, openness to technology, and the willingness to change. They have to be the drivers of innovation. At the same time, innovations, digitalization, precision, agriculture, new sustainable practices make agriculture more attractive and interesting for new generation. One cannot go without the other. For example, 2019 World Bank analysis in Croatia showed that farms managed by young farmers have adapted their production productivity better than by the average Croatian farm. Young people are important for the development of the sector, primarily because of their desire and ability to adapt more easily to technological changes, new practices and changed market conditions. We need to work on stimulating farmers' interest in professional development. Investing in youth education helps in more successful market integration and adaptation to diverse demands placed on farmers today. If we want agriculture to be a sector with promising future, it must respond to societal priorities, climate challenges, the need of sustainable production, safe food, and environmental protection. To attract talent, skills, and diversity, we need to show that agriculture offers opportunities, not constraints. In Croatia, young farmers can receive grants of up to 75,000 euros to start their own businesses. But it is equally important that we offer them knowledge, mentoring, and digital tools. Young people want perspectives, not just support. That is why we offer them education, connections with science and the market, and the opportunity to develop innovative business models from organic production to agritourism and local food processing. We know that obstacles exist, for example, difficulties in accessing land or capital. That is why Croatia is implementing measures that make it easier for young people to lease state-owned land. For example, we have 1/5 total utilized land, state-owned land in Croatia, by simplifying administrative procedure and strengthening the advisory system. But in addition to concrete support, the feeling that their work has meaning and social value is also crucial. This is what keeps people coming back. Digitalization brings numerous opportunities, but also responsibilities too. Technology can increase efficiency, reduce resource consumption, and help us adapt to climate change. However, it must be inclusive, accessible to all farmers, not just the largest ones. Croatia is investing in digital infrastructure, e-counseling, and education because we believe that digital transition must reach even the most remote villages. Public policies must create a predictable and enabling environment in which agriculture is attractive and dynamic. They must link rural development with education, science, and entrepreneurship. Agriculture must not be an isolated sector, it must be part of broader development vision. Of course, the OECD is our important partner in this. Your work on strengthening resilience, innovation, and human capital help us build smart policies that respond to the real needs of people. We appreciate your support and believe that together we can further strengthen cooperation in the field of generational renewal, innovation, and digital transformation of rural areas. Of course, great challenges lie ahead, but also even greater opportunities. If we want agriculture with the future, we must invest in people, in the knowledge, creativity, and courage of young people who will take responsibility for tomorrow's food production. Investing in young people means investing in the future of food and the environment in rural communities. Croatia remains firmly committed to partnership with the OECD and to all who share this vision that agriculture is not a place of departure, but a place of opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You told many things, but I think some of them are very interesting because they are more or less new. I think it's important that double perspective of innovation and technology. You said that young people are drivers of innovation, but as well, innovation is a tool to make agriculture more attractive to them. So I think it's something that we have to take into account in the policies approaches and to make it accessible to everyone. It must be inclusive. And then you've talked about the climate change. It is a challenge, of course, and technology is one of the main tools we have to face it. Thank you very much. We are going to give the floor to Mr. Osamu Kubota, who is Deputy Assistant Minister, Export and International Affairs Bureau from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in Japan. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. as introduced, my name is Osamu Kubota, and actually, I was once worked at OECD Secretariat from 2003 to 2007, and well, since then I left there. This is the first time to attending to the OECD event, so today I'm very happy to coming back here. Well, personal stuff is, I think, enough, and I would like to start my presentation, which is about what Japan is doing to attract young farmers. First of all, I would like to start with the agriculture situation from Japan, and as like other OECD countries, Japanese agricultural population is aging and declining. Left graph, especially the black bar chart, shows the share of agricultural population over share of the over 55 years old, which is 68%, which is very high. It is, I think, second highest in the OECD countries. And the light graph, red chart shows the number of the farmers, which is declining rapidly. But I would like to emphasize one thing about the over 55 ages, that we in 2000, we are already 67 the share of the over 55% farmers are the 57.6% in 2000, and now 2022, the latest figure is 68, which is not changing a lot. But it is very not good numbers, but at least we are not getting worse. And it means, I think, it's a certain number of the new entrant is coming into the agriculture in our countries. Next slide, please. So what we are doing for the attracting the number to increase the number of the new entrant. I would like to explain from 4 areas. One is about the providing information about the appeal of agriculture, which shows in the upper left boxes. Inspiring image of farmers, a sector with a bright future is, I think, is the most important, as the policy paper says. And what we are doing is, first of all, we are creating a portal site, which is providing the information about the appeal of the agriculture. And also we settled up new farmers consultant center to provide consultant service to potential new farmers. And the second I want to touch is that consortium, which is a kind of one of the representative form of public-private collaboration, which the private companies set up the consortium, which is providing information about the appeal of agriculture, and the government will providing the support, including financial support. And the third point I want to touch on this area is that food education. We call it the shokuiku in Japanese. And we have the basic law in food education. And one of the main the food education covers many activities, but one of the main pillar is promoting interaction between producers and consumers, which I think it's very much contribute to promote the consumers' understanding of the producers. And as for the food education, shokuiku, one of the main places which doing the shokuiku is the schools, which I think it's very much contributing to the increase, promote the understanding of youth and children. The second is about tackling with barriers about upper right, which shows in the box. One is financial support for the supporting farming business. I think one of the highest hurdle is funding to start the agriculture business. So we provide, government provide financial support, part of it to alleviate that burden. And second is I want to touch is farmland bank, which I think the acquiring farmland is one of the also the one of the highest hurdle for the new entrant of the agriculture. And we set up the so-called farmland bank, which is make a matching between the farmland who like to lend and people who want to lease them. And also third point is that about women, that we want more women to come into the agricultural sector, and we are advocating them. And also fourth point is empowering with disability. We call it, we have the policy that we call it agricultural welfare collaboration policies, which we think more people with disability to come into the agricultural sector and providing some financial support on doing that. The third area I want to touch upon is
1 minute left. Sorry.
Sorry. Multi-sector approach, which written down here with collaboration with education, also innovations, good doing a smart agriculture. And the unique one is collaboration with Sports World, that we choose more athletes to choose farmers for the second career of their athlete lives. And the last area is sharing knowledge, which we are two actors, main actors here. One is the government land extension services, and also the agricultural cooperative is also providing assistance training. Sorry for that. That's all from me.
Thank you so much. It's really very, very interesting. So I understand it is very hard to condense all the information. I think you have put on the table some things which are really important for what we are talking about. First of all, you have talked about a farmland bank. We were talking previously about the importance of the land, to have access to land. And this social inclusion approach with these people with disability, I think is really interesting as well as the public and private collaboration you have to provide with consultative services and so on. And very important, the younger people, the children, how you have this approach from the very early school. So thank you very much. Very inspiring. We are going to pass the floor to Mr. Aidan O'Driscoll, who is the chair of the Commission on Generational Renewal in Farming in Ireland. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Isabel. And it's great to be involved in this conference on generational renewal. I think these discussions are happening everywhere, certainly everywhere in Europe, but I think everywhere around the world. It's a real key topic at the moment everywhere. I'm very old. I'm just looking around the room. I think it's a fair chance I'm the oldest one in the room. Unfortunately, that means I've heard these discussions before. And that does cause me real hesitation, right? It's very important that this time is different. I think there is much greater determination to actually crack this nut. And I take heart from the recently published strategy on generational renewal by the European Commission. So I was asked, I'm the former Secretary General of the Ministry of Agriculture in Ireland, and I was asked to chair a small group to draw up a strategy or a report for the Irish government on generational renewal in Ireland. I won't bore you with all of the details. It's all available to you online. You can download the report from the Ministry, from the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine website, or indeed Kieran here in the Irish Embassy will happily supply it to you. So in Ireland, we have been working on this for some time on generational renewal, and a lot of measures have been taken, particularly through our taxation system and also through access to finance arrangements. As you know, access to land, access to finance is repeatedly identified as the key issues. We have provided a lot of education and advisory supports. And of course, CAP measures, Common Agricultural Policy measures in Ireland have supported it. Although on that latter point, Ireland has only spent 3% of its direct income supports on generational renewal, which is very inconsistent with our other measures because that's the minimum you're allowed to spend. So other countries have spent a lot more. But despite all this effort, nevertheless, and political focus, the fact is the situation is getting worse. So the government asked our commission to have a look of 7 people, highly skilled people, including farmers, to take a look at the issue and see to take an objective and evidence-based look at it and see what we could recommend. And I stress objective and evidence-based. Of course, we looked at Irish and international research, and there was a lot of it, including some very useful material from OECD. And the very strong emphasis in all of this, the really big message coming out of it, is that if you want to drive innovation and sustainability in the agriculture sector, you've got to crack this issue of generational renewal. You need to get young people in there because they have the energy, the knowledge, and the determination to drive the innovation, which makes farming more profitable, and to drive sustainability. And those two things, cracking this nut, making sure we produce enough food for people and make a profit for farmers while doing so, and deal with the big sustainability challenges. This is the great challenge of our age, reconciling these two things. So we looked, of course, at the detailed demographics in our sector. The news was bad. I won't bore you with the details. 38% of our farmers are over 65. Which is traditionally the retirement age in Ireland. It's moved to 66 now, but 38%, sorry, are over 65, and only 4% are under 35, and that's a significant decline in recent years. We made 31 recommendations. I'm tempted to read them all out to you and go through them in detail, but I'll just summarize them this way. Some of our recommendations covered domestic and EU agriculture policy measures. And in particular here, what we recommended was pulling together a lot of different supports into an integrated succession support plan. And very importantly, that included supports not only for the young farmer coming in, but for the older farmer exiting. And that is an important message because one of the big barriers we have, and I think Christopher referred to this, is older farmers' reluctance to let go. And this is a really big issue for us in a country where over 90% of land is transferred by inheritance. So easing the path both ways, easing the path in and the path out is really important. Secondly, we made recommendations on our national pension and taxation policy. Particularly on our national pension policy, we did not recommend a separate farmers' pension scheme. Frankly, we would have got nowhere with that. Rather, we drew attention to the fact that many farmers have very inadequate pension coverage. And we made a number of recommendations that should ease an increase in the number who have adequate pension. Again, therefore, easing the path out. Because older farmers worry about if they hand over the farm, what are they going to live on? And they worry about a lot of other issues too that I won't bore you on. Collaborative farming was a very important part of our recommendations. The example that Christopher gave you earlier was an excellent example of collaborative farming. We have done a number of initiatives in this space, relatively small scale at this stage. They've been very successful at that small scale. We intend to scale them up very rapidly. That's our recommendation. And this is collaborative farming within the family and collaborative farming, share farming outside the family, the kind of a bit like Christopher in the latter case. Why would you do it within the family? Because again, it reduces the worry an old person feels about letting go, where they still continue to have some input on the farm. They still have a role, but gradually management control moves to the younger farmer. We obviously made recommendations in relation to our farm advisory services, including a dedicated generational renewal service. Our advisory services actually have been very good on generational renewal, but we think it needs to be stepped up now to a dedicated wraparound service. Of course, on education and training, on gender balance, 13% of Irish farm holders are women. It's absolute disgrace. It can't be described as anything else. And we need a complete step change on this. And then on the overall attractiveness of the sector, we had a number of recommendations, but I want to draw attention to one thing.
Excuse me, just 1 minute, please.
Okay, this one thing that hasn't really been mentioned, which is to change the conversation about agriculture in a lot of cases. There's often a very negative conversation, particularly between environmental groups and farming organizations. And we really need to change this to a positive conversation about driving greater, we think we have quite a sustainable farming system in Ireland, but driving greater sustainability on farms and making that a positive thing. Very finally then, three things really. We need, at a national level, we felt we need policy alignment. You need to line up all your policies, not just your agricultural policy, but your taxation policy, your pension policy, even your social and health policy, all of these things. Secondly, address both ends of the equation, the young and the old. That's absolutely critical. And thirdly, be sensitive to the context. And in Ireland, the context includes, happily, an extremely successful non-agricultural economy, which obviously is offering very high incomes in high productivity sectors, and so we have to find a way of reconciling that. Sorry, Therese.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to wrap up because it's so interesting, as I said before, but maybe you have just summarized it very well with these three things. I think it's very interesting what you have said about aligning all the policies and not only the agricultural one. About the gender balance and gender equality, you have talked about this as well. Yesterday, we were talking about this as well, and I think it's one of the main issues we have to face. And this support not only for young farmers, but for older ones, which are reluctant to go. And I think it's not only money, it's more things. It's just to give them answers to their worries and to make them feel as happy as the young people who are willing to enter into this sector. So we have to stop here because we can continue. Can we go with the final one? Okay, 5 minutes more. So I'm very happy because I just didn't want to leave our last high level speaker for after the commissioner. So okay, fantastic. We will go on and continue with Mrs. Lauren Roger. I don't know if I have said it correctly. Please correct me if not. Who is Chair and Director for Future Farmers Network in Australia. Thank you very much. Lauren,
thank you very much.
your floor.
And thank you to the OECD for the invitation and also for including so many young farmers in the dialogue today. I think that's really important, and it's really great to see that that's being done. Given I've got the hardest deadline I've ever had in my life, I'll get started. So I'm the Director and Chair of the Future Farmers Network in Australia. I'm also a farmer myself and grew up on a farm. So we're a national not-for-profit there to empower young people in agriculture with a view to attracting and retaining them in the sector. We've been around for about 22 years now, founded also by a young person in agriculture in 2002. We do that through providing online resources, networking opportunities, bursaries for our members to access, upskilling opportunities, and we also host multi-day forums in specific sectors. So that's sort of the overall what we do. I would highlight as well that while there's no one else of our kind in Australia, you do see sort of smaller youth-led initiatives locally and in specific industries as well. So that's a feature, I would say, of the Australian sector. We also have what's called research development corporations. So they're 15, or I think there might now be 16 actually, across agriculture that exist purely to drive innovation in the sector. And that's funded 50% by levies that are collected for those specific industries along the supply chain at different points, and 50% by government. And then you also see private industry tip in for certain initiatives as well. And each of these RDCs, generally speaking, has their own arm looking to develop future leadership and of those industries as well. And FFN then taps into that by helping host workshops and different initiatives with those RDCs. So I guess all of that's just to sort of highlight that in Australia, it's probably a bit more of a bottom-up approach and an industry-led approach. Another thing I would just touch on is that when we speak about this issue in Australia, we do talk about farmers, but we very often also talk about the sector as a whole. So the whole supply chain, everything from agronomists, researchers, bankers, processors, marketers. Even like social events include sort of that whole supply chain. So I think it's really important to highlight that, because I think the more you open that, and it's also ever changing, the more technologies come into play and the more innovation, that definition of what it means to work in agriculture is changing as well. So I think we need to be making sure that the way we refer to this is inclusive, because the more we do that, the more people identify with agriculture and what their role is in doing that. And it also makes sure that we don't undersell the industry and what we do. I think if we just restrict it to the farm gate, then it's doing us a disservice as to how integrated and complex the chain is and how far we've come technologically in the last 100 years. So yeah, just highlighting the career paths there, I think, is really important, and making sure that we're competing with other sectors in offering really exciting, well-paying jobs, because that's who we are competing with to get the best and brightest minds working on this issue and making sure agriculture stays really profitable. Which leads me to my next point, is that in Australia, it is quite profitable, and profit is an attractor to the sector. As many in the room probably are aware, we don't get subsidies. We also deal with a pretty challenging climate most of the time, very much up and down, very cyclical, which has driven, a lot of innovation in the sector and led to, our producers being amongst the most efficient and high quality producers in the world, which is something we're really proud of, and hopefully stands us in good stead as we focus more on climate change and a variable climate in the future. But I'd also say that, of course, farms are businesses, but there's also, across that whole supply chain that I mentioned earlier, a lot of opportunity for people to step in and be entrepreneurial and create value and provide solutions there. And I think the better that farmers are doing, the better that all of those farm adjacent businesses generally are doing, and the better in turn the communities that farms and all those businesses operate in are doing. So finding ways to make sure that there's an environment for farms and all of those business leaders to do well, to do what they do best, to innovate through, not too much red tape, not too much heavy taxation, particularly on wealth versus income, and making sure that there's not too much of an administrative burden as well to farmers and all of those business leaders, I think, is really imperative. It's not all rosy. There are challenges that we have, and I think a lot of the other young farmers today and my fellow panelists have touched on them. Succession is obviously a big piece in Australia. Also land prices, which don't make succession easier. There have been some areas in Australia where, land prices have doubled or tripled in the last 10 years, which the profitability has not doubled or tripled in the last 10 years. So trying to keep up with that and find ways to either scale or enter has definitely made it trickier. Not to say it's impossible, but made it trickier. And also training and education. I think there's a real desire for people to see how they can upskill and train along the way, and having creditable pathways to do that is definitely in high demand. To leave on a positive note, I would say it's quite, it's an interesting time, and I think we were talking about this at our table before, I think we need to flip the script on agriculture. I think a lot of people are seeing the solutions that come out of it. I know from Denmark earlier, they're talking about record numbers doing it at university. I think people see the tangible impact they can have and the solutions that agriculture can provide us, not just for food security and fiber production, but also for climate change and reducing our emissions. As sort of a couple of examples, I guess the FFN board, about 50% didn't grow up in agriculture and have chosen to come in. We also did a survey to sort of help prepare for today to make sure we were representing the views correctly. And of those we surveyed, 60% who work in agriculture didn't come from that background and have chosen that. I've got friends who, worked in really high-paced corporate roles, for McKinsey and those sorts of companies who have actively chosen to come into agriculture because they can see the difference that can be made there, and that it's a really exciting time. So I think we need to be owning that. We need to be presenting it more positively so that we can attract all of those great people to the industry.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I think it's very interesting, this approach from your part, of course, from the economic sustainability and profitability. You have talked about taxation, income. I think it's really interesting as well how climate change can impact in profitability and production. And you all have talked about the importance of training and education. And I think it's very important, this positive note, because it's good to see that from inside, you as well have this positive vision of this sector, which is plenty of opportunities, but it's very easy to say it from our side and not from yours. So thank you very much. We are going to continue because during this session, we will have in some moment to interrupt it because the commissioner is about to arrive. But before that, we are going to give the floor to all you, to everyone. You can take your flags, you can put them up, and then we will give you the floor to talk, to participate, to reflect, to ask to any of the high-level speakers, whatever you want. So we will open the floor for some minutes. Is there anyone who wants to break the ice? Don't tell me you are not going to be so... Okay, there's someone. Thank you. Yes, there in number 13, please.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. I have a question for Mr. O'Driscoll. I wanted to ask him, since he, from what I understand, he painted a rather somber picture, so about generational renewal. So I would like to ask a couple of questions. First one is, so where does hope come from? And second question is, from your position, who in your opinion should be the main actor triggering this change in the narrative that would eventually make this turnaround possible? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Really good question too. Two good questions. On the who question, the second one, I should have clarified maybe. Our report does concentrate on policy issues, policy measures. But of course, the who is everybody out there in the market, I think, you know, as Lauren was talking about in Australia. So it's everybody really, but the government and in the EU's case, the Commission also has a responsibility to lead. What I was saying at the beginning is that we need to make sure that this time we're serious about it, because frankly, if you look back at EU statements and indeed at OECD statements over the years, you will find loads of references to this issue. We didn't always use the term generational renewal. I personally find it a rather sterile term, actually. But we talked about attracting young people into farming and so on. So the same issue essentially. So we've got to be sure that this time is different. I think our political leaders have a huge responsibility here. To give you an example of that, the Commissioner has dropped a little bit of a bombshell in the middle of his CAP proposal in relation to potentially cutting off payments to farmers when they reach retirement age, right? This caused a bit of consternation in Ireland, but it's the kind of hard question we have to grasp. Frankly, if we don't grasp an issue like that, we're not serious. So we will have to grasp it one way or the other. We've put forward some ideas to kind of soften the blow a little bit and make it more operable. As to where we get your first question, where we get the optimism and belief from, actually we heard some very optimistic stories already, particularly from young farmers, and that is, I think, the youth, the young people are who will, as I said, drive innovation and sustainability. We have loads and loads of positive stories in Ireland about young farmers driving incredible change and doing amazing things of increasing food output while lowering climate change emissions, improving biodiversity, and lowering emissions to water, for example, doing all of those things, you know, doing what seemed impossible. So we have to tell those stories and tell them more loudly. I did say, and I repeat, and I don't apologize for repeating it, where you get the kind of negative conversation, the negative presentation about problems in agriculture. And here, some farming organizations, they mean well, but they tend to paint everything as disastrous. You know, if the government doesn't do X, catastrophe will follow. Well, no, actually. They may have a good idea that they want to present, but it shouldn't be presented in that way. And somehow, and I've been involved in this process, and it can be done, we need to get our agricultural people and our environmental NGOs to talk to one another, not past one another. Because if they're talking past one another, there are some people out there who will only listen to the environmental NGOs, and agriculture will lose out. Sorry, that was a rather long answer to your question.
Don't worry. Okay, thank you very much. Any more interventions? Yes, there, please. Number 10, table number 10.
Thanks. I'm coming from Latvia's policymaker experience for some time. The question is to our Australian colleague Lauren in two parts. First one very short, how much of your budget would be the public and then respectively the private, the membership finance? The second one a little longer, so in relation to farmers that are coming into the business, I heard you saying that they were also skilled managers coming from other sectors of economy, which is really great as well. And I wonder, is there such a thing as also small and medium-sized farming in Australian landscape where you guys are helping those as well, that we just saw in other countries? And I have my suspicion about that, but I really would like to hear your facts about what is this sort of major profiles of young entrants or new entrants, not necessarily young, but new entrants in the farming industry and sector in Australia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To the first point, Future Farmers Network, we operate, with I would say minimal grant funding at the moment, but it's mainly through private sector sponsorship that we operate. To your second point, it is really positive. I would also say that in Australia, we do see probably more than in the EU, like a majority of farms are still family run, but there is definitely more corporate investment and corporate run agricultural businesses or corporate co-investment with family businesses, or really large family businesses to the point where they're corporatized. And I think those models actually have a positive spillover because they provide this great training ground, and they also provide an avenue for people to have careers in agriculture and skill up without having to own a farm as well. There is definitely demand, and that's something we're seeing in Australia for those small to medium enterprises to get people skilled up for training, and that's sort of where those RDCs and FFN come into play through providing those opportunities. Did that answer your question? Perfect.
Thank you very much. So we are going to stop here by the moment, because it's my honor to welcome Commissioner Christoph Hansen, Commissioner of Agriculture from the European Union, who is so kind that he has come to this forum to introduce us, to give us the first news on the European Union strategy for generational renewal in agriculture. So I'm sure we all are willing to hear in him. Thank you very much.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to say that it is a pleasure for me to be here at the OECD Global Forum to discuss one of the defining challenges, as it has just been mentioned, for the future of agriculture, how to attract and support new generation of farmers. And this is not only a European issue, but also a global one, I believe, which comes with existential implications for food security across our countries. Farmers are definitely aging. For the European Union, we have less than 12% of the EU farmers that are below the age of 40, and the average age is above 57 years of age. And in certain member states, it's even worse, where we have, I maybe mentioned Portugal, where you have less than 4% below the age of 40 years, and you have more than half of the farmers that are above the age of 65, and this is of course not sustainable. We have as well member states that are doing better. Austria, for example, they have around 24% of the farmers below the age of 40, which is promising, but of course this is something we need as well to spread a little higher. And the average age keeps rising currently in many countries, and it is, as I said as well, approaching the retirement age, when I say 57 already now in average. And in Europe, it is the only major sector as well with such an imbalance in the demographic age, I would say. And but it is also a structural challenge, as I said, for agriculture. It affects the productivity, the competitiveness, the continuity of farming communities. And when you say that the farmers are getting older, when you are close to the retirement age or even above, you will be very reluctant as well to invest in agriculture. And we have seen that there is a clear lack of investment in agriculture. The European Investment Bank has identified a gap of investment of around 62 billion euros. That was in 2022. So we can really say that this has gone up. And if you don't invest, well, you are not using the newest technologies. You are not being as sustainable as you could be. You are not being as productive as you could be. And you don't have the best quality for your own work as well. And I think these working conditions are very important as well. And that is why we need to enable, again, that this is going to take place. And I always say that it matters to do so, because without farmers, there is no food production, there is then no rural economy, and there is no social fabric. And this is, of course, the reality in many territories. Also, I believe that agriculture is as well more than just the food security and the food sovereignty, because we have as well many regions in the European Union that have, for example, a common border with Russia. What would be in these regions without agriculture, without forestry, without bioeconomy, another important topic, and without the human presence in these regions, without a structure. I think that would be an immense weakness as well for our continent. And therefore, we need to ensure that farming is going to be taken again to the next level. And we also say that and I grew up myself on a farm. Farming is not just a business, it is as well about passion. And I think food production is, of course, deeply cultural aspect and rooted in our history. And I think that it is something where we need to take generation renewal up again, because we want to protect this heritage that we have. And last week we have adopted, and it has been announced, the EU strategy for generational renewal in agriculture. And this builds, of course, on an extensive consultation with young farmers, with stakeholders, with member states, including exchanges and inspiration of some of the OECD members, and good practices from around the world. And our message is very clear. Without new farmers, there is no future for farming, there is no sustainable food system, and there is no balanced territorial development. And also, I say, when we speak about food security, that is often neglected a little bit in the broader discussion. But nonetheless, I also say we have to be clear that food and agriculture production is currently weaponized on a global scale. And I also say that you can't build a continent on an empty stomach. So this is really important, that we have this security there, again, to be not dependent when it comes to the food production. We need to control the quantity and the quality of what is produced. And agriculture, as I said, is a profession and a way of life. And yet too many people see it out of reach, because they simply can't access the profession. And this is, of course, due to, for example, very high land prices. This is due to very pretty much difficulties to access finance as well. But as well, I think the complexity of our policy sometimes, and as well, this is not only European policy, this is as well often national and regional policy. So we need to be very straightforward on that as well. And the EU strategy provides a comprehensive framework that complements our proposal for the common agriculture policy for the years 2028 to 2034, and it brings together policy orientations around agriculture, territorial development, taxation, pensions, education, and land governance into one coherent approach. And as I said, there are member states where it works better. And when we look at that, what is really working there, I take again the example of Austria. They have the highest density when it comes to agriculture schools, agro-environmental schools, and they can't have their hands. So many young people want to do these studies. I think that is very important to give as well the next generation the right tools and education to do so. It's also important, I believe, very important to work on the image of the farmers. And in Austria, for example, when there has been a poll, what are the most attractive jobs or the most esteemed jobs in Austria? First one is the doctors. Well, I think that is probably in all the countries a little bit like that. The second comes farmers. And I think that is quite unique. And therefore, we need as well to work on this image of the people that are taking care of our landscapes, that are providing for food, and that are making us resilient as well to threats coming from other third countries. And therefore, we need to draw on all the different tools. How does it come? In Austria, they have a very attractive pension system for the older farmers. Well, this helps, of course, to hand over a farm. They have as well tax incentives when it comes to new farmers, and I think that is very important that we take this into consideration. And we encourage action across all governance levels, therefore involving the Commission, the member states, but as well local and regional authorities, as well as people and organizations in rural areas. And this aligns with the Commission proposal to integrate the common agriculture policy with other EU funding instruments into future national and regional partnership plans. And this provides member states with greater flexibility and enables synergies in funding, particularly in the rural areas, which we need to make more attractive for our citizens. And with the new fund, we also aim to achieve reforms in member states, including in areas that are crucial for generation renewal in farming, such as taxation, such as pension, I mentioned it, and as well the land policies. And retirement schemes, inheritance laws, and fiscal measures must all work in favor of this generational transfer and not against it. When we look at the reality, often they work against it. And together with member states, we want also to create and enabling the environment where renewal on farms becomes the natural path and not the exception. And therefore, we have as well worked on the public funding. This is, of course, vital, but it is not everything. But we have proposed in this strategy to have a target of spending of 6% of the CAP money specifically for young farmers, for setting up the farm and for better support during the first years. I think that is very important. Then also at EU level, we foresee several flagship initiatives within the framework of the strategy, including a starter pack for young farmers, combining startup aid, financial instruments, and as well advisory support. We also work on a European land observatory to improve the transparency in land markets and promote as well fair and inclusive access to land. Also a women in farming platform to recognize and support women as decision makers and entrepreneurs. And also a network of rural youth ambassadors to connect young people active in farming and the rural entrepreneurship across Europe. And here at the OECD, it is of course preaching to the converted when I say that the generational renewal also depends on skills and knowledge. And some of the EU member states that are most successful, I mentioned it, Austria, are attracting the young farmers specifically through that high level of education, and also through Erasmus Plus and the Pact for Skills. We are investing in vocational education and mobility at EU level. So innovation really is essential, and young farmers tend to be more innovative. They come up with new ideas. They want to innovate. They want as well to have the best and the most modern tools to work. And I think that is very important that we embrace this. And through Horizon Europe, we support innovation and precision farming, digital tools and sustainable practices that may make agriculture more efficient and appealing to the young professionals. And we will continue that after 2027 with a substantial budget foreseen in health, biotechnology, agriculture and bioeconomy as part of the so-called European Competitiveness Fund. And we will continue our investment support building on Invest EU, working closely with the European Investment Bank to create as well favorable conditions for young farmers. Also, I believe it is very important to look into other means or let's say less traditional ones when it comes, for example, to insurance, because I think climate change is a reality that we can't just think away. Our farmers are the first victims of climate change. They have to fight with wildfires, they have to fight with droughts, they have to fight with floods and so on. So we need to be better prepared. When we look currently at the insurances or which crops are insured or what is the percentage, we lie around 20 to 30%. This is not sufficient, and we are not sufficiently there. We need to make this happen, and therefore I'm working very closely with the European Investment Bank as well to develop such insurance and reinsurance systems that will be crucial as well to give a predictability to the sector, because currently, especially if you are a young farmer and you would have consecutive seasons with bad harvests without insurance, then of course your business model is gone, and there we need to become way better to have this predictability. We also work now strongly, and we have proposed this in the frame of the new common agriculture policy, to have what we call farm relief services, because farmers, of course, want to have as well similar conditions, even if in practice it will not be the same advantages that you maybe have as a civil servant with your annual holidays and different advantages, but at least they need certain relief when you are sick, that there is the possibility, and we are financing as well, that they can have somebody substituting them the days that they have to take off for medical reasons. They need as well maybe a few weeks at least annually of holiday to get a break, because that is the mental health issue is a very strong one or worrying one in the agriculture sector. The suicide rates are very high because it's a business with a lot of risk, with a lot of financial pressure, and therefore as well I think it's good to have these possibilities as well to get a break from time to time, and this farm relief services will be very important as well. Also, I believe we have to make the administrative life easier for the next generation. It is something where when I travel to the member states, I travel a lot currently, not only to the member states as well above that, but I travel to 24 member states, and the administrative burden is of course something where the farmers struggle with. It is as well not the reason why they chose this job. And it's just worrying to see how much of this paperwork is ending up on the farm. And that is why we have launched what we call an omnibus simplification package that hopefully we will be able to conclude next week in the interinstitutional negotiations, in order to give there again more time for the farmers They want to be outside producing, to be with their taking care with their of their animals, and not standing behind a pile of papers behind the computer to fill in forms. That is not why they choose the job. They want to produce and they want to deliver food security for our citizens. And therefore, I believe we need as well strong partnerships, and generational renewal can, of course, not be imposed from Brussels or from capitals. So it must be built with farmers, with cooperatives, education and institutions. And I believe that the OECD's role in promoting peer learning and policy dialogue is essential in this context. And generational renewal is as well a long-term process. It requires consistency. It requires as well predictability, so that young people can plan their careers and their investments. I said just now about the important social services maybe for the farmers. And I give you an example. I was in Sweden and I met a young female farmer, a dairy farmer, and you know that dairy production, you need to be with the animals. She said, in my region, I have to choose either kids or cows. And I was laughing in the beginning, and I said, why? And then she said, well, the next childcare facility is 1 hour drive away. So I need to drive 1 hour to get there in the morning, 1 hour to come back, and the same procedure in the evening to get the child back home. Well, how is that possible in a job that is already very demanding with a very strong workload? So I think this is really important that we address this, and we make as well the life of the farmers attractive. It is a passion, and they are ready to sacrifice a lot of time for that, even if it's sometimes not rewarding, even if sometimes you have bad harvests. But nonetheless, at least on the other side, we need to be there as well to help them to have a decent life. We are working as well on more decent prices. We have made as well a proposal on the Common Market Organization in order to make as well mandatory prices, because when you are going to buy a car, you will sign a contract and you will know exactly the conditions. The farmers are producing, and when they are selling, well, then they have more or less and very often to accept the price that the trader or the retailer is offering. If they don't accept, well, then they will sit on their product, and that is then not going to be rewarded. And there we make these contracts mandatory. I think that is important, that they get as well the predictability. This is very important as well. If you want to go for a bank loan, they need to know what is your business model, what is your output, what is your input, and this will help there hugely as well. So those are some of the elements that we have put on the table. But of course, I think we have to look at as well above the European Union, and that is why I am here to have this common challenge addressed, because there are many examples in the different countries in Europe and above. And I think that is something where we need to learn from each other, to take the best examples over, to make as well a case for the entrance into the job, not only the young farmers, but as well the new farmers. We need to enable them to pick up this job, because if we will depend on this, we all have to eat 3 times a day at least, and this needs to be of good quality. But therefore, we need to do to empower as well the people that are doing that for us, and I'm counting on you to come up with good proposals as well. We have delivered now this generation renewal strategy at European level. There are maybe many elements in that you could take back home, and I hope to get as well from this conference good ideas what we can even do better. Thank you very much, and have a very good conference.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hansen. I think it's been really inspiring. I think he has talked about many of the things and the challenges that we are trying to face here with the different solutions. And of course, for the member states of the European Union, this is a very significant tool for we all to manage at the national and at the European level. So thank you very much. We have 5 minutes more or less left to continue with the questions that we were raising to the high-level speakers. So please feel free. Is there anyone there? Sorry. Oh, no? Okay. Don't be shy until, okay, thank you so much. In table number 5, please, can someone arrive? They are coming.
So thank you so much for your presentation. I have a question. I can feel like on national level, it's quite hard to convince the older farmer to let the younger farmers in. I mean, everyone in this room agreed with what we are saying, but in the end, when we are sitting and negotiating about, let's say, the CAP budget, then if you're 65, 70 years old, it's quite nice to have your hectare-based payment instead of young farmers scheme in CAP, for example. So my questions for you is like, how can we make reality out of what we have been talking about? You mentioned that before, like we had these discussions in, I don't know, a lot of years. And I think the problem is like, in the end, everyone wants it as it is, but they would like to see a change. So I think like what kind of tools or how can we actually make reality out of what we are talking about here today? Thank you so much.
Okay, so anyone wants to react? Ireland, thank you from your great experience. You're not old, you're just experienced.
Yes, ancient and out of date experience as well. But anyway, from our report more recently, look, the thing, so specifically on the issue of the exit of the older farmer, which is absolutely critical issue, certainly in Irish experience, right? It is the big holdup. And there are many very subtle issues attached to this. There's a loss of identity experienced. Irish people are tremendously proud to be farmers. That's not our problem. In fact, they're almost too proud to be farmers, so they're very reluctant to give it up. That loss of identity is keenly felt. Now, as somebody who has retired from public service, that is an experience actually nearly everybody goes through, but for some reason farmers feel it much more strongly and also feel it's kind of unique to them. So you do need what we call in our report soft supports. So a very good research report was done in Ireland about setting up groups, peer networks of older farmers who come together. This is a bit like men's sheds, if people have heard of this, who come together and very often meet, for example, at the agricultural marketplace. So we have local marts. We're a livestock country. We have local marts around the place. So the older farmers come together in that place that they're very familiar with and meet up and discuss various issues and so on. It's a really small thing, but it is the kind of thing that we need to be doing now. So we in our report are proposing that quite strongly, that a quite small amount of funding would move that along quite well. The other thing is we discovered that a lot of farmers, older farmers in Ireland, and I wonder now, does this apply to a lot of old people in Ireland, worry about elder care. So this is a very far distant from agricultural policy, but elder care, how will I be affected? We have a means tested elder care system. I won't again go into the details, but older farmers are wondering if I hand over the farm, particularly, or if I sell it, for example, and get this big lump of money, how does that affect my access to elder care? Well, that's something you would never have thought was an agricultural issue, but it is. And we have to address it. So I've spent a lot of time today, and I think it's completely right, looking at the perspective of the young farmer, and I heartily endorse that. That's absolutely natural here. There's really nobody here representing the kind of farmers I'm talking about who are really at the end of their career and moving out, and the worries they have, but we have to care for that because the two are linked. It's a simultaneous equation. So you have to address both sides of it.
Thank you very much. I can't see any other flag. Oh, yes. So here, please, the last one in table number 2.
Thank you, Kieran Goble from the Irish Permanent Representation. The question I had was just before the commissioner entered, it was about visibility. Okay, so we understand that we need to balance new entrants coming in with, older farmers moving out. The question Commissioner Hansen mentioned the success in Austria about making the profession more attractive to young people, even very young people, you know, school-age children. I know if I ask my kids what they want to be when they grow up, they'll tell me that they want to be YouTubers, which wasn't really an option when I was growing up. So do we have an issue with visibility of the profession as well, even for, you know, very young kids? And if there's an issue there, what role can policymakers play in, making farming a visible profession for young children, something that they want to aspire to be, whether they've grown up on a farm or not?
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if any one of you want to react. Yes, Japan, please, because indeed he talked about this in his introduction.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I think, issue of that, and because many people are living in urban areas, so they don't know what's the agriculture activities like. So, but that is a very big issue, I think. And what Japan is doing is that I a little bit touch about in my presentation, but we are doing food educations. We call it the shokuiku, and in many schools, they kind of programs making interaction between the school kids going to the rural areas to experience the agricultural activities. In such kind of activities in our country, and I think it's very good that the small kids and youth will understand what's the importance of the agriculture. And well, I'm not sure, this is take a long time, but that's one of the way that policy will do for that issues. Thank you for.
Thank you. Yes, I just maybe I would add something that the commissioner said, and it is that that we have to make people seeing that agriculture is not only producing food, which is something very, very important, of course, because we all have to eat, but it's something more, and it impacts in the use of technology, in taking care of environment, in territorial management, and even in the defense of our borders, because of its impact in the geopolitical situation. So I think we have, as policymakers, we have to make this visible for people and for young people, especially for children. Okay, so thank you very much, you all. I think this has been a very interesting session. Thank you so much to you all, to our high-level speakers from today. I think it's been really interesting and inspiring. Now I'm going to say goodbye to those people who have been watching on the via YouTube, but please come back here promptly at 2 p.m. as persons here will do, including everyone who now we are going to have a break for lunch until, as I said, 2 p.m. People here, participants here in person, can eat lunch at the OECD restaurant space just above the conference room on the Red Chairs Cafe. And I think the staff of the OECD is going to give you the direction.